Okay, so finishing off the Duotone hard edge color, you can see what an impact that makes. Right? Gives it a lot of drama. I'm just deciding if I want to do more to this billowing smoke. I think I do. So I'm just going to do a few more kind of highlights cut out from this. Keep them simple. Just one chunk at a time, just kind of catching the light. All right. And then I don't think I want it on this one. Yeah, I'll just leave that dark. Okay, now notice how no matter how dark my color gets, it's not going to be black, right? My line art is black. There's a big difference there, even with my shadows. And if I think that this is a little bit too strong on my duotone layer, I can always just use my magic wand with contiguous turned on and select it and then delete it out. Right? Or I like this technique too. Select it and then just use my eraser on the selection but at a lower opacity. And then I can really control it. How dark it is where. Especially if I do something like this. Where I try to do it directionally. Let's try that again. That doesn't really make sense. Yeah, maybe like that. So I'm going to go to less opaque and just brighten this up in the slightest way. There we go. And this is still duotone hard edge. You see how crisp those delineations are, even if they're just done with an eraser. I'll try that here as well. Just because it's a little dark. So I take it down just a fraction. Maybe inside the mouth. So, since the mouth is such a focal point, there we go. There. I have 3 tones of red in there, right? But that's still duotone because they're all variations. On the head, I can do different tones of green. But if I screw up and I accidentally do too much, right? What can I do? I can go back. And as long as I'm on my duotone layer, I can add that in just with my paintbrush. Match the color, fill it in. 100% opacity. Okay, so save your work. Lock your duotone hard edge layer. Where are we in the steps? Understanding coloring. We're here, duotone hard edge, which is the next thing after flat color. We are here after step 4. But we're not quite there after step 4 because notice the difference. Flat local color is generally more saturated than duotone. What do we have? We have duotone shadows on top of our local flat color. So what can I do now? I can duplicate my flat color layer again and call this and unlock it and merge it. Just because I'm fancy with my construction paper kind of texture. Merge group. Okay, and I'm going to call this duotone highlights. And this isn't hard-edged or soft-edged. This is just playing with the highlights. So it's just another copy of our flat color. I'm going to mark it orange because these all kind of go together. And now I'm going to go to image adjustments. And whereas with the shadows, I brightened or I darkened the midtones, here I'm going to brighten the midtones of those highlights. And I'm going not limit the highlights, but limit the shadows this time. So that's more dramatic, right? That lighting. So what do I mean? So this was our flat color. This is a highlighted version of our flat color so that my highlights are a little bit brighter. Just like the highlights of the lemon here are a little bit lighter than the local color of the lemon. And then I have my shadows on top of that. And then all of them can be adjusted with opacity. And you know me, I like to, whenever I adjust it that way, I like to also use dissolve. So I get that little texture. But that's just me, right? And then same thing with the highlights. I'm going to use dissolve, and I'm going to use that slight diffusion texture. And now let's see how that looks on black. That reads pretty clearly. How it looks on gray, how it looks on white, how it looks without an offset. Yeah, it all reads. My darks aren't too dark. My lights aren't too light. Makes sense. What's the most boring part? It's actually these ones, because they are now highlights, and they're not as interesting. So what do I do on the highlights? I can now erase away and reveal the flat color. So at the tips, it's getting a little softer. Now this is subtle just because of opacity. This is getting us into what we call duotone soft-edged. Soft edge. All right. Anything else? Maybe on the arm. Okay. So save my work. Lock my duotone highlights. Lock my duotone hard edge shadows. What's the next step if we want to play with it? Now, and you can download this lemon worksheet. You can just right click and say save image, or you can go to links, and I have a high resolution version of it under links for this primer sheet. It will help you study for the final exam and for knowing how to recognize these things. So next is soft edge duotone. Soft edge has a lot more variety. Notice this is hard edge duotone on the Ninja Turtle. This is soft edge duotone on this student's superhero character. They are all building up from flat color, right? I'll just make this large so I don't have to keep going in and out of full screen. So that's the flat color. This would be the duotone soft edge color. So what does it do? It splits all the local colors into light and dark variations, but it softly gradates between them. It's not a clean delineation like you see here. This is duotone hard edge. This is duotone soft edge. There's two ways to do duotone soft edge that I think are really effective. So the first, we always start by doing hard edge because the computer is really good at taking away focus. It's not good at bringing focus. So what do? I now duplicate my duotone hard edge shadows, and I rename it soft edge shadows. Do that again. Double click. There we go. And now I turn off my hard edge shadows. I just have my highlights underneath. And now I have my duplicate. How do I turn this into soft edge? Well, let me put it to 100%. And then I go to filter. And this is the only filter I'm going to teach you this semester. But I do want you to know. and there is a question about it on the final exam. The filter that is essential for using Photoshop is how to blur focus. And you go to filter, blur, and then the one you can have the most control of is Gaussian blur. You can play with other filters, but this is the one you have the most control of. Now, this is going to soft edge it, and because I have it on dissolve, it's going to be nice and noisy as I do it. But I'm going to play with how soft I want to make those hard edge shadows just by blurring them. So that looks about right. If I don't have it on dissolve and just have it on normal, you'll see what those look like. It took all of the hard edge shadows that I had there, and it just blurred their edges. So they're now soft. And yet we still have the same direction of lighting. Now, what if you use both of them? If you use both of them, it can be a little confusing, but sometimes it works. It kind of depends. I've seen creators use that well, especially if you blend them into each other. So that just gives a slight, darkening and aura to it, especially if I use dissolve. And then that can look pretty nice. But it's mostly the hard edge that really comes through. So if I really wanted the soft edge to be stronger, I'd have to take the opacity down a lot more on the hard edge. Like that. So this gives you a way to play with all of it. Now, I said there are two ways to do soft edged. So let me show you the second. I'm going to take my flat colors again. Let me lock this one. Take my flat color, duplicate it, move it up above my duotone shadows, right? And then unlock it, merge it. This is just my flat color, and I'm going to call it Duotone Soft Edge. And some of you might really prefer this way of darks and lights, because we've done it before. You can see my duotone flat or my flat color, right? Now all I do is on that duplicate layer, I use burn for the shadows, and I can be as soft edged as I want about it, but you have to be soft edged with this. So hardness at 0. Nice big brush. I like an exposure of less than 30. And then you just start where you know you want shadows, like under the foot, under the cop car, on this back foot, on the belly. And you start burning it down, just like we did with our creaturescapes. Now the problem with this method, I'll show you how to fix it, but the problem when you first do it is that it's going to saturate some colors and desaturate other colors, depending on how light and dark the colors are. So I start with just shadows. Nice and soft. Then I can go to highlights with the dodge tool. Same kind of settings. Big, soft brush. Always on the midtones. Less than 30. And you decide where you want to brighten things. And so here you're doing shadows and highlights all in one layer. But you're doing it with dodging and burning. Just like we did when we matched our composite creature to its environment. So that is also soft edged. Now let's combine the two. This soft edge with this soft edge. And I'm going to get rid of the saturation problems, like you see how toxic that yellow got, by changing it to a blending mode of either soft light or pin light. And you can see how now that dodge and burn really kind of helped to shape those soft edges. So if I was going to do it all with soft edged, I would do it this way. And I'd put it into my own folder, and then I'll call this